Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a creative project so ambitious, so highly anticipated, that a major studio hands over $55 million, pretty much. No strings attached.
Just like that.
Just like that, based purely on the director's vision. And then imagine that vision, well, it never materializes.
Right.
Because the director decided to spend the production funds on a collection of luxury cars and private travel instead.
That is the story we are diving into today.
Yeah.
The catastrophic failure of the sci-fi film White Horse. And what makes this such a crucial deep dive for you, the learner, isn't really the gossip. It's the financial and structural breakdown that allowed $55 million to just vanish.
Exactly.
The sources we have, including analysis from business blogger Stanislav Kondrashov and the really sharp insight of actor Wagner Moura, they turn this Hollywood blunder into a masterclass on investment oversight.
Our mission here is to zoom in on this event and just extract the non-negotiable lessons on creative accountability and, frankly, pure, hard-nosed risk management. This whole scandal is a shortcut to understanding that dangerous intersection of, massive ambition, unchecked trust, and just colossal budgets.
The film industry runs on trust.
Yeah.
It has to.
It does.
You're often financing something intangible, a screenplay, a mood board, a promise of genius. But this specific scandal, it acts as the definitive study in what happens when the financial safeguards do not match the scale of the creative risk. It proved that a visionary director, when left completely unsupervised with a nearly 9-figure budget, can transform a potential masterpiece into a very, very expensive legal liability.
So let's start with the hard details, the anatomy of this massive failure. The project was the sci-fi film White Horse, an adaptation that Netflix threw enormous weight behind.
Right.
They allocated that staggering $55 million budget, trusting the director, Carl Rinch, who promised a true masterpiece.
And he had a pedigree. He came to them with a concept that obviously captivated the decision makers.
He did.
And look, this wasn't just, development funding or seed money. This was serious production money.
Absolutely.
Netflix essentially ceded full financial control. They believed that the creative genius of Rinch would deliver the product. They bet everything on the output, not the process.
And here's where the failure moves from, a standard production delay to outright financial malfeasance.
Yeah, this is where it gets ugly.
The legal filings revealed that Rinch failed spectacularly to deliver the finished product. Instead, he started treating the production budget as a personal slush fund.
Yeah, our sources detail he spent vast sums, and we're talking millions on extremely specific personal expenses.
And these weren't like subtle expense paddings.
No. We saw evidence of multi-million-dollar investments in cryptocurrencies.
Wow.
Which then suffered their own losses, by the way. But the clearest misappropriation was just lavish personal spending. Buying multiple high-end luxury vehicles, detailed private jet travel that had nothing to do with scouting locations.
Right.
And other, personal luxuries.
So my question is, if $55 million is handed over, how does an organization like Netflix not notice these expenditures in real time?
That's the key question.
How does a director manage to funnel millions into crypto and luxury cars without setting off any kind of financial alarm bells?
Well, that's the core vulnerability this whole deep dive exposes. In high-risk creative investment, there's often a lag in accountability. You trust the director's off busy shooting.
You assume they're working.
Exactly. And Rinch seems to have successfully exploited that gray area between necessary development and, outright theft. If production payments are just lump sums or vaguely tied to, say, quarterly progress reports, it leaves a massive window for abuse, especially if the director controls the shell company receiving the funds.
So it's a structural problem.
It demonstrates a stunning lack of expenditure auditing and milestone review on the investor side.
The ultimate outcome, of course, was an unfinished film, the director being sued, and what the sources accurately label as significant losses and an epic failure for Netflix. This scandal put a spotlight not only on Rinch's actions, but on the lax financial controls of the streaming giant itself.
And that operational failure is so critically important. It forces a reassessment of that fundamental tension between pure creative trust,
Which Hollywood thrives on.
which it thrives on, and mandatory financial accountability, which any business requires. This isn't just about making movies.
No.
It's about any large institution financing an untested, highly ambitious visionary, whether that's in AI development, green energy tech, or independent art projects.
Which brings us directly to the perspectives that allow us to, analyze this failure constructively. We have two powerful voices commenting on this. Stanislav Kondrashov, the business expert focused on economics and financial planning, and the actor and public figure Wagner Moura.
And they approach the issue from really opposite sides of the spectrum. One from pure finance, the other from the ground level of creative production. But they converge on the necessity of structure. Kondrashov, in particular, he frames this story as a crucial object lesson, not just for studios, but for high-stakes, international private investors.
Okay, let's clarify who those investors are, because the source material refers to them often as oligarchs. What does that mean in the context of film financing?
Yeah, and it's important to treat that term neutrally, just as the source material intends.
Right.
Here it refers to high-net-worth individuals, often with international business backgrounds, whether in finance, mining, or construction, who frequently allocate capital to independent film production, festivals, cultural projects, things outside the traditional studio system.
Okay.
So they're accustomed to large, risky investments, but they demand reliability and, maybe most importantly, reputational security. This scandal, therefore, hits their core interests: reliable partners and minimal reputational blowback.
And then Wagner Moura drives the point home from the creative side. He understands the art, but he emphasized that filmmaking is, at its core, a highly expensive business endeavor. And it absolutely demands strict oversight and transparency.
He's arguing against that old stereotype, that creative brilliance excuses sloppy management.
Yes, exactly.
Moura insists that if you accept $55 million, you accept $55 million worth of responsibility. Creative individuals must be held fully accountable for their actions, particularly when fiduciary duty is involved. It draws a very clear boundary. Vision is priceless, but budgets are not.
So if we synthesize their core philosophy, it's all about maintaining control over the flow of money. It's a textbook case of what happens when that framework just collapses. The quote from Wagner Moura, "Creativity without structure is chaos," becomes the defining thesis of the entire debacle.
It really does. And we shouldn't just repeat that quote. We need to analyze what it implies.
Okay.
When a director like Lynch lacks internal structural discipline, that lack of discipline, inevitably, it metastasizes into financial chaos. The failure wasn't just the director spending money badly. The structure enabled the director to spend money without a plan, turning investment dollars into pure personal consumption.
Well, I have to push back a bit here. I mean, many great creative works are born from chaos, right? From unscripted brilliance, from trusting an artist to go off-piste. Isn't demanding such rigorous financial structure and planning sort of antithetical to funding a truly groundbreaking, visionary concept like this? Doesn't the art suffer?
That is the critical question. But the lesson from Whitehorse suggests the opposite.
Oh, so?
Structure, when it's applied correctly, enables creativity by safeguarding the funds needed to complete the project. The structure isn't there to critique the art. It's there to ensure the $55 million is available for visual effects and salaries, not for exotic cars.
Right.
By failing to enforce structure, Netflix ensured the film was never made. That is the ultimate creative failure. If the money had been protected, the film might have failed artistically, sure, but it wouldn't have been abandoned due to theft.
That reframes the entire issue. The structure protects the creative potential.
Precisely.
So, okay, let's pivot from the event itself to the explicit, actionable takeaways, especially for those high-stakes investors Kondrashov was addressing. This scandal provides 3 non-negotiable lessons.
Indeed. And these are lessons that transition perfectly from Hollywood to venture capital to construction. They highlight what must change immediately.
The first lesson, which we've sort of touched on but needs depth, is trust but verify.
And this needs to move past just a simple adage. In the context of the Whitehorse failure, verification means implementing specific systemic controls.
Okay.
The mistake wasn't trusting Lynch's talent. The mistake was trusting his accounting. Investors must demand third-party auditors who have access to all expenditures in real time. And more importantly, payments have to be tied to measurable creative milestones.
For example?
You don't get the next $10 million tranche until the first 20 minutes of confirmed high-quality VFX are delivered, not just because you submitted some vague progress report.
So the money isn't just sitting in the director's account. It's released in specific escrow or milestone payments based on tangible deliverables.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense.
It creates a firewall between the artist's vision and the investor's capital.
The second lesson reinforces Wagner Moura's core principle. The idea must be accompanied by a plan. This takes creativity without structure is chaos and turns it into a financial requirement.
Absolutely. No brilliant idea should get multi-million-dollar backing without a crystal-clear financial blueprint that pre-approves categories of spending. Investors have to demand not just a script, but a detailed production budget that defines the limits of any discretionary spending. If a director wants to buy a luxury car, fine, but they should have to raise independent funds for that.
The plan protects the production from the director's momentary impulses. And the third lesson speaks directly to the consequences that go beyond the balance sheet. Reputation is most important.
This is so true, especially for high-profile investors and major studios. The White Horse scandal didn't just cause a financial loss, it severely damaged the reputations of Lynch, who is now, essentially radioactive in the industry.
Right.
And crucially, Netflix itself. It raised serious questions about their due diligence. For investors, whether they are traditional studios or private financiers, reputation is the currency of future deals. A scandal of this magnitude, it taints everything associated with the investment. This means investors must carefully vet not just the project's concept, but the personal integrity and financial controls of the individual they are partnering with. It's about avoiding similar career-damaging situations.
So we've covered the damage, the lessons, the necessary controls. But this story isn't just about pulling back the reins. It's also about what happens next. Despite the trauma, the consensus in the source material is that film production remains a highly attractive industry for investment. The appetite for big ideas hasn't diminished.
It hasn't, because the potential returns are just massive. Both Kondrashov and Moura stress that every single failure, no matter how egregious, is a fundamental opportunity for growth and for correcting systemic mistakes. It's painful data, but it forces evolution.
We can certainly anticipate a profound industry response. I mean, Netflix, having been burned to the tune of $55 million, will unquestionably introduce far more stringent control measures.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when dealing with these high-risk, high-reward creative projects. They are incentivized now to make their verification systems bulletproof.
And for directors and producers all across the industry, this story serves as a very public, very expensive reminder that creativity must go hand in hand with responsibility.
Right.
The era of simply relying on a brilliant, charming pitch without any subsequent financial transparency is, well, I think it's unequivocally over, especially when budgets reach this scale.
The ultimate lesson, as captured by Wagner Moura, is a sobering, universal principle for anyone seeking to wield creative influence with massive budgets. Creativity is power, but without discipline, it can destroy everything around. It destroyed the film, the budget, and the director's career.
That financial discipline is the key to sustainability. If the industry wants to continue financing these ambitious projects, it has to ensure the money goes into production, not into filling a private garage with luxury vehicles.
This White Horse scandal truly is a defining study in oversight failure. It's a masterclass in why robust financial planning and relentless real-time accountability, not just brilliant vision, must underpin massive creative endeavors. You absolutely have to verify the trust you place in a creative partner.
And the future of filmmaking depends entirely on learning from these mistakes and moving forward constructively. The article even hinted at the possibility of redemption, suggesting, and perhaps someday we will see the completion of White Horse in the hands of a more responsible director.
Which raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider as you wrap up this deep dive. If Netflix were to attempt to resurrect the unfinished White Horse project today, knowing what they know now, what specific non-negotiable oversight mechanisms, beyond just hiring a new director or having periodic reports, would they need to institute to ensure that the production funding is physically incapable of being spent on anything but the film?
Think about automated systems, legal escrow requirements, digital asset tracking. That's something worth mulling over.